Well, I hope you guys are enjoying your supposed free trial of communism. It's not really free, especially when the government tells you that they're giving you something. It's usually a lot crappier than what they say it is, and that's exactly what me and John Sneisen, economic historian, will be getting into this video, breaking down all the minutia, all the bureaucracy, all the crap in this universal basic income experiment that is called a stimulus check that supposedly will be given to everyone as fast as they can, and obviously that is not the truth. John, you are right now crunching numbers. You're going to give us some analysis and some details into this that you can't get anywhere else, but truly, it is astonishing to see millions of people expecting $1,200 any moment. And I have to say, if you expect something good and legitimate from the government, you're going to have a very bad time. Right now, I'm in the cabin with the woods. I'm sharing this with another person, and this other person's like, "Oh man, I can't wait to get my money." And I'm like, yeah,
fine print there, isn't it?
yeah, you know that you shouldn't be putting your hope into that. You know, and I'm breaking it down to her, the exact details of how it's going to be worked out, and she's like, "Fuck! I want my fucking money, and I want it now." Sorry, I'm gonna have to bleep out that curse word. But family-friendly show. We're live here, we're unscripted, but again, the minutia here, the details here are very, very eye-opening. As of course, many people won't be getting this stimulus check again. There's a lot of fine print. One of the bigger fine prints is if you have an adjusted gross income of $75,000 or above, you're going to, of course, not see this check in an extremely long time, if at all. That's one important caveat to understand here. Many students won't get it, so won't many elderly and disabled people. Some immigrants will get it, but the important minutia here is that if you are a student and you're of 17 years of age or older, and your parents or guardians claim you as a dependent, you won't be getting anything of that. If your child is 16 years or younger, then they qualify as, of course, a dependent, but then they'll get the $500. If they're 17 and older, you don't get that $500 per child credit. Most senior citizens, again, if their children claim them as a dependent, don't get it as well. Newborn babies in 2020 don't get it as well. Unemployed people in 2020 don't get it as well, especially if their income is higher than $99,000. And of course, this is going to be rolled out all the way up until 20 weeks. So these checks, 20 weeks, all the way out until September, will people maybe see this wonderful kind of check in the government, again, money that is not ours, which raises the question, if the government could just print endless money like we were talking about before with the Federal Reserve bailing out all their bailouts in the previous video, why do we have to pay taxes? That's a question that a lot of people are raising. But John, you're looking at a lot of the fine print, a lot of the numbers here. What are some of the things that are jumping out to you?
Well, there's a lot of things jumping out at me, and of course, what's interesting is that I'm actually crunching the numbers as we speak here, and I found some other numbers that I actually looked at. But the numbers that I came up with was, quite scary actually. How little the citizens of the U.S. will actually get. And if you give me 1 second here, I'm actually punching the numbers right now as we speak, and I'll let everybody know exactly the approximate amount of percentage of the money will actually go to, of the 6 trillion currently. It's going to be a lot more. We're looking at another 2.3 trillion right away.
And we're talking about also all the important Federal Reserve bailouts that we still don't know the full details of, and that's why we're saying 6 trillion here, just to give people kind of some background trivia. Yeah.
Yeah, and if this $1,200 check, if it went to everybody that of the working age, of the actual workforce that was paid under 75,000. But then there's a lot of other fine print to it, of course. But if it did that, you would look at getting $68.152 billion to the citizens themselves. Well, that sounds like a big number, but in the context of $6 trillion, that is currently the number. probably is going to be way, way higher, of course. But in the context of how much you're getting versus the big corporations and everybody else, you're getting, the U.S. citizens are getting, 1.14% of the total bailout. That's what the U.S. citizens get, of course, after they were forced to, basically lose their jobs because the government shut down the whole economy. And so they're giving them, you got to, sprinkle a little bit on the peasants to make them happy, right? So
yeah. Me and Tim have been calling it like chicken scrap. It's literally just chicken scrap compared to the 5-course gourmet Wagyu steak meal that all the banksters and corporations and the 0.1% hedge funds are getting right now. And again, we have to understand here the logistics and math here, because they allocated $250 billion around that for this kind of stimulus check for everyone to stimulate the economy. Again, a lot of fine print. This just shows you why central controlling, central planning is wrong, especially when we really look into exactly what's happening here. Because again, $250 billion on a $2.2 trillion bill. People estimate that to pay back all of that for this bill will cost taxpayers $8,000 in taxes. So yeah, some people got that $1,250, but again, you're gonna eventually down the road have to pay so much more in taxes for that if we're playing by the rules. Let's just hope, since it's going to take about 20 weeks for all of this to potentially even roll out, let's just hope hyperinflation doesn't hit and that value of that money doesn't get devalued to be absolutely worthless, because as we know, the purchasing power of the dollar has been going down throughout the last few decades in history, right, John?
Yeah, and if we actually look at the total bailout that's coming out right now, I just want to show that, like, the U.S. dollar has lost basically 99% of its value since 1971, when they went off the last remnants of the gold standard. But just to give you like some context to some numbers, we were talking about the 6 trillion current total bailout from the Fed. Let's say that okay, so let's just take that out of the picture. But if you had that would be $18,183.54 per U.S. citizen, approximately. And then if you took the $2.3 trillion that they're now doing in these purchases of, basically junk bonds, bankrupt corporations to prop them up, they are actually, that's going to be $2.3 trillion. And it's going to come through the Exchange Stabilization Fund, which is the U.S. Treasury. So it's a shadow bailout used for, against the taxpayer. You had the TARP bailout was 600 and something. I forgot the exact number. But now you're doing the $2.3 trillion on top of that in a new bailout, which is basically like 4 or 5 times, close to 4 times higher than it currently is. And if you do that 2.3 trillion, that'd be 6,969.69 per citizen, and that is nowhere close to the $1,200 that they're giving out, of course, to the U.S. citizens. So, but as this money comes into the economy, it's going to cost inflation in real prices, because it's going to potentially move around in the economy. If people are smart, they could buy things that are have historically shown to protect them from the devaluation that's coming, so which is gold and silver, of course. And this is just my opinion, but it's historical opinion. It's the history's opinion upon what could happen. But when they have all this money, and of course, what they really want is Bernie Sanders. I think Bernie was talk Feel the Burn, the 30-day trail of communism. He wanted to have I believe it was $2,000 to every U.S. citizen on a monthly basis. And of course, these people that believe that you can print unlimited amounts of money and have no consequences of that, they're just blatantly ignoring history, and they might be either delusional, stupid, or they just willingly do it with knowing the consequences that they're having of the population itself, without caring about that, of course.
Yeah, I mean, this is an experiment that we can't go back from. Just like our rights, if the government takes it away, they're not going to be giving it back. Now, allegedly temporarily, but now, especially if you look at this kind of larger financial implication, this is big. There's many mayors all across major cities like Los Angeles and Chicago now being like, well, if we're getting all this free money, illegal immigrants should get all this free money too. Why aren't illegal immigrants getting all this free money? And again, they're not playing by basic rules of just, logic, of common sense, of intelligence. Again, I want to help people as much as anyone does, but when you make that controlled by a central force, you have something called communism. You have something that my family fled from. You have something that my lineage fought against throughout a long period of our existence in Poland. And it's not something you want, because again, whenever you have a middle person, a middle mafioso, which is essentially the guy siphoning off and then distributing, the wealth, what you're going to have here is something that you can't go back from, but it's going to have very dangerous implications, because the government doesn't give you anything for free. This whole word free, it's a context that sadly a lot of people who don't have a lot of intelligence think, yeah, I'm just going to get it. No, someone has to pay for that. There's going to be a bill, right? Who's going to cover the bill after this meal? And we have to understand, this is why many cities are in debt. This is why this financial crisis has been made worse than it is. And again, what we're looking at still, chicken scraps, absolutely nothing compared to what the big banksters, what the big corporations, the multinational corporations like Walmart that are right now taking their profits, since of course all the mom and pop businesses are closed down, mandatory by jackboot police officers with guns standing in their doorway saying, no, you can't enter. Go to Walmart. What does Walmart do? Walmart's investing hundreds of millions of dollars in China right now. This is absolutely mind-boggling to see this happening, and our wealth, the value of things that we worked so hard for, is just being eviscerated right in front of us. Meanwhile, the financial system that literally doesn't create a service, doesn't create manufacturing, doesn't do anything, doesn't create anything. They use phony, fake money to make money. That's all they do. That's the whole financial system. 1% of the population owns 50% of the stocks. It's a game. It's rigged. It's against you. It's screwing you over. John. Sorry.
Of course, Walmart as well. They were known for having low pays to their employees, and then they got supplemented, their employees, by the EBT checks, of course, which is the food stamp program. So you get it. You gotta almost laugh at, it's very, very sad, but you almost gotta laugh at it because it's just so utterly crazy how we're getting ripped off by these global corporations together with the banksters and the government that are all in on this, of course. And yeah,
McDonald's too. How many people working in McDonald's can't have a living wage, have to go on government assistance? The government is subsidizing these mega large corporations that don't give a damn about them, that are not, they're supposedly American companies. No, they're not. They're globalist international corporations that adhere to the belief of this little frickin' piece of paper that only has value because people believe it has value. John, I'm going to give you the last word, and where can people find more information about you and the work that you do?
Yeah, you can find all of my work and everything that I do on theeconomictruth.org. You'll find links there to everything that I'm involved in. You could also, especially, you should go and look out for something called Global Bank Run Watch. And it's bankrun.org. You'll find information on what's happening during these crises where you're having cash crunches, and they're trying to ban cash because cash is king, of course, in this economy for privacy, but they really want to eviscerate that. So that's one of the number one things that I'm working on right now, to get that out to people. And people will be reporting in on the website if there's something happening locally where they live. So we can I'm hoping this to be, a massive global website for people to, get their information on what's happening locally, and so they could protect themselves against these banksters and the government that are, running wild, spending all our future money, just making ourselves into total slaves. But I think they're going to fail, and I think it's all going to come apart. But that's why, money is so important.
If it's going to fail and hurt all of us. Meanwhile, they're getting subsidized. They're getting their socialism. They're getting their communism. Their losses, they're private. Their losses are socialized. Their winnings, privatized. Yeah, just on and off. John, thank you so much for joining us. Stay tuned for more here on Change the News.